Qui est chargé de l'enquête?
Maigret, brigade criminelle 36 quai des Orfèvres.
1, 2, ouais, non, laissez tomber.
Hello and welcome to our weekly cinema show. Our film critic Lisa Nesselson joins me on set. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Anna.
You're starting with the enduring literary creation by Belgian author Georges Simenon. Inspector Maigret is the subject of dozens of films on TV and in the cinema, from France to the UK to Japan. And this time he's played by Gérard Depardieu. Tell us more.
Well, you could be forgiven for saying that the actor was born to play this role. Depardieu's Maigret is solid in every sense of the word, attuned to details, never judgmental. He gets to the bottom of things, even if the bottom is pretty far down. We are treated to a wonderfully atmospheric, delectably melancholy portrait of Maigret as he attempts to identify a young murder victim in 1950s Paris. A very young woman with no ID has been found dead in a designer dress that 5 knife wounds have turned from shimmery silver to blood-soaked red. Throughout history, of course, fresh-faced young women have flocked to Paris from the provinces, hoping for a better or at least a less stifling life. Nobody intends to end up dead when they get on that bus or that train. Much of the tale hinges on the fact that there was a time when the way an individual dressed could be as telling as modern DNA samples.
All right, then let's take a look at the Retroatmosphere and director Patrice Leconte's version of Maigret.
C'est pour la fille morte que vous faites tout ça?
Il faut se protéger, ne pas être insensible.
Quand on perd son enfant, on perd tout. Il n'y a plus rien, vous savez.
Je sais, monsieur Kaplan. À la longue, c'est obligé, tu te forges une carapace. Puis un jour, au détour d'une affaire banale, t'es touché par un détail. Et alors, toutes tes certitudes s'effondrent d'un coup.
Leconte's attention to detail is perfectly attuned to Maigret's investigative style. The veteran director's motive is to entertain, which he assuredly does with flair and empathy in under 90 minutes. Maigret platonically befriends a self-aware young woman we saw there. Aurore Clément is spot on as an aristocratic widow who dotes on her son Laurent, who is engaged to be married to Janine, a vivacious young actress, several social stations below him. This matter-in-fact entitlement of some of the likely suspects is absolutely timeless, and the sexual overtones range from clandestine to semi-brazen. Belgian author Georges Simenon, who dropped out of school at age 14, he got a lot accomplished. His phenomenal literary output, totaling hundreds of volumes, includes 75 novels and 28 short stories featuring Maigret. Many of Simenon's tales have been adapted for the big screen and for TV, as you said, including by Leconte himself with Monsieur Hir in 1989.
Well, Lisa, Depardieu has been in so many films, almost too many to count. He's in 3 on French screens right now, including the audience-pleasing comedy Maison de retraite.
Aha. Received wisdom has it that French cinema is mostly art house fare, but most years that is not accurate. France makes several hundred movies annually, and it's the unapologetically low-brow comedies that usually attract the most paying customers. Those films do travel the world, but not so often to English-speaking countries because we excel at making our own dumb lowbrow comedies. In Maison de retraite, very popular comedian Kev Adams plays Milan, a sweet but shiftless slacker who was raised in an orphanage. He means well, but when things go terribly wrong at his supermarket cashier job, he is sentenced to 2 months of community service in a retirement home, which is rotten luck because Milan is pretty much allergic to old people. The script really pours on the indignities at first. Let's just say that good taste is not a priority. But as Milan gets to know a core group of 7 residents, many of them played by venerable French actors who were born in the 1930s, he picks up some useful life lessons and realizes that management may not have the interests of these senior citizens at heart. At first terrified of former boxer Lino, played with grumpy gusto by Depardieu, the 2 men eventually bond, and our young protagonist becomes a better person with a much better attitude.
All right, we spoke to Kev Adams about the inspiration behind the film.
One of my best friends since childhood worked in a retirement home. He often came home from work with anecdotes from his day, either hilarious anecdotes or extremely moving ones, sometimes disturbing or surprising or annoying stories. He would say to me, it's the sort of place where you can experience many emotions in just one day. So I would take notes, and I said to myself that it would be great to make a film about this.
De faire un film sur ce qui s'y passe.
On n'entend plus rien.
Ben ça va, je remonte, voilà, je le remonte.
Plus haut. Oh, mais quel con, celui-là. Bah merde.
Eh, je vous entends, hein.
Ah bah, il manquerait plus que tu sois sourde, ma grande. Eh oui.
Bien mérité, ça.
Now, at first I was worried, but I have to say this movie builds to a heartwarming, rather clever conclusion. There were a handful of people in the theater laughing really loudly, even applauding at certain scenes. They were just having a great time, and it was contagious. On the way out, I found out that actually they were childhood friends of the director, Thomas Guilou, and they were cheering his latest movie. And unlike being at home watching TV, that really cheered up the atmosphere.
All right, now to a French movie that's far closer to the kind of thing that people perhaps imagine when they think of French cinema. Writer-director Stéphane Brizé brings us the third installment in his informal series on social issues. Vincent Lindon stars in Another World.
Now, the subject of Another World is the world of work in contemporary France. We have plenty of evidence on screen and in the streets that it's not always easy being a worker in France, but it's not necessarily easy being in management either. As a neighbor of mine likes to repeat, nobody on their deathbed ever said, "How I wish I had spent more time at the office." During the opening credits, the camera shows us framed photos of a young couple clearly in love and milestones in their family with their son and daughter, and then bam, in the first scene, the happy young couple is now middle-aged and at a meeting with lawyers to hammer out the terms of their divorce. Philippe's responsibilities as the head of a French factory belonging to the international electronics conglomerate Elson have damaged his marriage to Anne beyond repair. We learn that they own 2 homes and have money in the bank, but we also learn that the endless hours that went into accumulating that foundation took a horrible toll. Anne gave up her promising career to raise their 2 kids, and their teen son, affected by the tension at home, has just cracked up in class and been taken to a psychiatric center to recover. Let's take a look.
Je tiens à dire que j'étais très clair, je ne t'ai jamais pris en traître, j'ai jamais menti. Je t'ai dit, ça allait être compliqué tant que le groupe Elson n'atteint pas ses objectifs.
Oui, alors moi je dépends du groupe Elson. Moi je vis avec le groupe Elson, quoi. Je suis mariée avec Elson, moi.
C'est pas ça que je te dis.
Mais ça fait plusieurs années là que c'est que des tensions, des angoisses, des plaintes sur ton travail. Mais Philippe, je vais avoir 50 balais, quoi. J'ai plus d'années derrière moi que devant moi, c'est vrai, quoi.
The pressure to succeed, coupled with the responsibilities of being a decent manager, seems almost impossible.
Well, Philippe is an excellent boss who genuinely cares about his workers. When headquarters decrees that all branches must fire 10% of their staff, even though Elson is profitable, Philippe can't bring himself to fire the 58 people higher-ups are demanding. You heard it here first. Free market capitalism is an unforgiving system, and shareholders couldn't care less if Philippe and Anne are unhappy or 580 hardworking employees are already being asked to do too much. This is a hard-hitting, carefully layered look at the relentless pressures of giving your all to a soulless corporation.
All right, here's Vincent Lindon explaining his character's struggle.
He's someone at a crossroads, which happens when you're someone of my age. He wonders, am I no longer cut out for this job in terms of what they're asking me to do, which can happen? Or is what they are asking of me totally unreasonable and crazy?
Some excruciating questions there, Lisa. You're ending with a classic. Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather is turning 50, and for that occasion it's been remastered and it's on French screens and around the world this week.
Now, the thing to keep in mind, one thing to keep in mind about The Godfather is that when Mario Puzo published his soon-to-be best-selling novel, there was officially no such thing as the mafia. Certainly not in the USA. J. Edgar Hoover said so. And no siree. Any unpleasantness, like having your business burned to the ground for failing to pay protection money, well, that was just a rumor. And even if this so-called rumor affected an entire city and, by extension, an entire nation.
All right, Puzo and Coppola won an Oscar for the screenplay of The Godfather. The latter was at a special screening event for the 50th anniversary.
I was so down in the dumps and unsure of myself, and no one liked the picture originally. You know, there was one person who saw it, and it was the first person who gave me encouragement. It was the wonderful writer Bob Town. And he saw it and he said, you know what, Francis, Marlon is great in the movie and the movie is great. And before he said that, no one had ever told me that. Sometimes you get lucky, and I got lucky.
Now, if you've never seen The Godfather on the big screen, they're making you an offer you can't refuse. The acting couldn't be better, the narrative stakes couldn't be higher, and if you're not completely drawn in from the opening frames, then I can diagnose long distance that you no longer have an attention span, and I send my condolences.
All right, we'll rectify that for some of our viewers with a clip of that in just a second. Remember our website. We're also on Twitter and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
Freedom, you're my older brother, and I love you. But don't ever take sides with anyone against the family again. Ever.
Michael, do you renounce Satan and all his works?
I do renounce him. You asked me about my business, Kate.
Is it true?
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.